Grew up on late-night warnings.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Scared, straight.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
And were inspired by movies that defined a generation.
We were all pretty bizarre. Some of us are just better at hiding it, that's all.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I feel the need for speed.
We found our attitude in comedy.
I'm Gumby, damn it.
You see that sign? No shirt, no shoes, no dice.
Right. Learn it. Know it. Live it.
And our identity in pop culture.
I want my MTV!
I want my MTV.
I want my MTV.
What you talking about, Willis?
Keep your feet in the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
This is Gen X Men with Bill Rowland and Gary Dollarhide.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
All right, welcome in, everyone. Bill Rowland. That is Gary Dollarhide. This is episode number 3 of Gen X Men. And Gary, I've got my 1.21 gigawatts Doc Brown shirt on today. Not going to get into the movies like we did in episode number 1. We have a lot to get to in this show, in this episode. But we have to start out first. I want to check weather check. You're outside this week for the episode there in Maine. How are the weather conditions there? It looks beautiful day.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. Yesterday, record highs across the northern part of the state in the 80s. And we're going to do it again today. And then by tomorrow, our daytime high is going to be about 60. Yeah. So fall is here. Leaves are falling. It's just these last 2 days of last gasps of warm air for us.
Yeah. I was out in my neighborhood the other day, and I commented to my fiance as we were walking. We were going on our little walk as we do. And I said, I don't see kids out playing. Like this neighborhood, she's like, oh, because she, again, teaches at the high school right down the street here. She's like, oh, no, this neighborhood is full of kids, all this stuff. And I'm like, it could have fooled me because we're, it's Halloween's coming up. And I'm like, how much candy do you think we're going to need? Is this going to be like a big, and she's like, oh, there'll be a lot of kids. And I'm like, I don't know where they are because I don't see them. So I know people have talked about this before, but it's just weird to me. Like this weekend here where I am in Northern Virginia, the weather was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And yet you walk around and it's like, you don't see the roving bike gangs of kids, 10, 11, 12-year-olds on their huffy bikes running. Like you just don't see them. And it's disappointing because that was some of the most fun that I ever had as a kid, was just leaving on a Saturday morning and you come back, maybe they were having a cookout, maybe your parents were doing whatever, and you just went and hung out with your friends all day and then showed up back at the house filthy from your day's activities.
Whatever happened.
But whatever happened. And your parents never looked for you.
Yep. No, when I was growing up, even though I grew up in a more rural area, oddly, there was enough houses. We're looking at 1 acre tracts, per house. So we were close but separated. But there was plenty of kids within 2 years above and below my age. So you're talking 10, 15 kids that lived in this zone. We were always outside, kickball, dodgeball, playing in the woods. And it's kind of the same thing in the summer and sometimes on weekends. You have breakfast and you're out the door. You might come home for lunch, but your parents usually say, hey, be home before dark. Don't make me call you.
Right.
So,
right.
We were just kind of left on our own. And the only certain rules were, for us, it was 2 miles to the country store, i.e. 7-Eleven.
Right.
But, we'd say, hey, we're all going down. And by all, some walk, some rode their bikes, but it was a group thing. And that would be kind of the only rule of checking in to say, this is what we're doing. And we were just always outside because bikes were freedom, especially out in rural where we were. That got you around, got you over the friend's house. It was just constant transportation. and there's plenty of fire logging roads, dirt roads to go down. I mean, we were all over the place. And so, my son, he's 20 now. We grew up in the idyllic, we were living in what I call the idyllic main town. There was a main street, there was restaurants, there was a grocery store. And same thing, you just did not see kids out the way I remembered of us always being outside and always on the go. And obviously, I think some of that plays into the change of play, if you will, where we were in that transition phase of non-technology to technology. And for them, it's all technology, right? That's their basis of being, if you will.
Yeah, because I can remember. I mean, you've been to my house where I grew up, where my parents. Well, they sold the house a while ago, but there were. I mean, now there's a metro station behind the house, but it was railroad tracks back then, and there was no fence between my backyard and the railroad tracks. You literally would just walk down, the slope of the bank of our backyard, and then up the bank of where the tracks were, and I could be on the railroad tracks in less than 5 minutes from my house. So there was a creek and a pond and everything. And you tell your parents all the time, okay, hey, we're going to go down the pond, because you'd be this is going to sound as rural as you were. We were down there catching frogs and tadpoles and everything else. And you were less than 100 feet from the railroad tracks. Now, my dad worked for the railroad, so we were taught very young age, have a healthy respect for that. But again, I can't imagine parents today being like, oh yeah, my 10-year-old son and 2 or 3 of his friends are riding their bikes down to this end of this street, because it's at the dead end, and they're going to play in this creek/pond 75 feet from where the railroad's going to go by. I mean, now it's the metro, but that's unheard of these days.
Oh, parents would freak out nowadays.
And I mean, they would freak out if you just said you were going to ride your bike to the 7-Eleven or to the country store or whatever. They would be like, no, we'll drive you. There's no, you don't need to ride your bike all the way up there. I used to say it all the time. When the kids, my ex had 2 daughters, I would be like, why aren't you guys just like up the street playing with friends? Like there's so much of this like scheduled play date stuff is so weird to me. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, just go knock on the door, and if they can't play, they can't play. It's like, no big deal.
And that happened to me plenty of times.
It was weird. Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to go over to Stevie's house. Get over there. Father, mother, he's whatever he did, I don't know. He's not able to play right now.
Hey, Stevie's not available.
And I'll go back home. I don't understand what that change was. Obviously we talked about the video games, and I know parents have changed. Now, I lived in a rural area. Very few people went to school not on the bus. And then you see it's a big thing now to make fun of it, and comedies and everything is the school drop off and pickup line. Like, I question, well, who are these parents that have the right timing to be able to go to work, get their kid to school, pick them up? These are things I'm not aware of. Even my son, he rode the bus.
Yeah.
See, when you get home, he got on the bus to go to school. This whole, taking them to and from school with mom and dad, I don't know if I guess it's our generation that's guilty of it. I just don't know why we started doing that.
Yeah, I don't either, because I'm with you. I rode a bus, elementary school, junior high, high school, until I could drive myself. And that meant standing out in the rain, waiting for the bus, if that's what you had to do. Walking home, because once you got into junior high, they didn't drive you down. Like, the elementary school bus would drive you and drop you off at your pickup spot. Once you got to junior high, in the morning, they would come around. In the afternoon, they would drop us off at the top of the neighborhood, basically where the bus could pull in and turn around. They didn't drive down the neighborhood. So you had a mile walk home. And it didn't matter if it was 30 degrees, if it was pouring down rain, if it was 90 degrees by the time you got to the end of the school year. Or in my case, when I was in 8th grade, I busted up my knee. I had knee surgery. There was more than one time when I hoofed it home on crutches because nobody was available to pick you up. Like, parents were working. It was kind of like, well, figure it out. get home somehow. So you asked one of your buddies to carry your books or your backpack, and you huffed it home. And I mean, that's just the way it worked. But you're talking about getting dropped off now, because I rode the bus, you rode the bus. There was very few times that I participated in the preschool. I don't mean preschool like 3 and 4 years old. I mean like before school, prior to school, preschool starting, that kids would be out there. And this was different than when you would get like recess after lunch, when it was basically your age group that was outside. So if you were in 4th grade, maybe some 3rd graders would be out there, maybe some 5th graders, but generally your lunchtime, at least when I went to school, you went to lunch with your classes all went to lunch about the same time. Mm-hmm. So then your recess was all about the same time. But before school, then it was a free for all. You had 6th graders and 1st graders and 3rd grade. Everybody was playing either kickball, or we had foursquare or dodgeball or whatever it was. That was some of the most fun of the rare occasions that you'd get to school early enough to go out and play, because everybody was out there, and it was like one big giant conglomerate of just everything going on all at once.
Interesting. You'd mentioned that we were talking earlier. I went, for me, it was a county school. It was K through 7 elementary, 8 through 12 high school for one county, 100 kids per grade. That was about it. And 95% rode the bus. So by the time the buses got there, it was straight off the bus into class. So we didn't have this conglomeration of people just milling about before school. Now, we did have that in high school when everyone started driving.
Right.
But now, for some reason, we all didn't want to be at school, but people would want to get there earlier and earlier to hang out before school and just hang out in the parking lot. So there's a little bit of irony there on that one. But yeah, we didn't have that, preschool festivities like you had. It was just the recess scheduled during the day.
It was mainly for the kids that walked to school, or there was one bus that always got there early. I guess maybe they had other runs. I don't know how the bus schedule works, and maybe they had to do other runs, and so they got there early. But yeah, I was always jealous when I would get to school and get to class, and you'd hear your friends talking about, "Oh, you should have seen what happened today playing." I was like, "Oh, why can't I get here early enough to get involved in any of this?" Now, the other things that we were talking about, again, Carrie and I were talking about this, is the games you played when you were a kid. And not necessarily like organized games or like board games, not like Plain Life or Trouble or Sorry. But like I was asking her, I said, last night, as we were talking about this and other things, I said, okay, what was your favorite game when you were growing up? And she's like, well, it wasn't really a game. You would just like, she's like, we'd play Star Wars, and different people would be different characters from, like, she's like, that's kind of what you played. And I can vaguely remember my sister and her friends kind of doing that same thing. I don't know if it was Star Wars, but they would do other, I don't know if it was movies or shows, whatever. But I do remember in our neighborhood, because we had a lot of kids like everybody else. And I cannot believe that our parents, let this go on and probably watched and laughed about it. Did you guys play in organized backyard games Red Rover?
Once or twice. Now, our organized games typically were football, kickball,
sure.
And then hide and seek team-wise.
Okay.
Because we're talking 10, 20 acres of woods, right? And we had layouts of, hey, you can't go past the ravine with the creek. You can't go past the oak tree that has the lower, those were parameters. And say there was 10 of us, 5 would go out, 5 would wait by the house, do the countdown, and then go out in the woods and go find each other. Red Rover was like once or twice, I do recall. And I know we played it a bit in school, oddly.
See, that's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
I remember playing this in elementary school as well. And I remember kids getting not seriously hurt, but you could get beat up pretty good, because if you came running across, like, again, for people that don't remember the game, you had 2 teams, you lined up across from each other, say 2 teams of 5. And then you would say Red Rover, send, Ralph right over. And then, okay, Ralph would let go from his team and he would pick two people that he had to run through and he would just sprint however far apart they were and launch himself as you were holding hands with your teammate. He'd launch himself into the arms trying to break through. And if he broke your line, he got to take somebody from that team back to his.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't break through the line, well, now Ralph was on that team, and that was 6-4. And you just went back and forth until everybody ended up on the same line. The thing is, you figured out pretty quick that if Ralph came running, if you got it up high enough, Ralph's going to take one right in the chops, and he's going to break through. There were plenty of kids that ended up flat on their back in elementary school from playing Red Rover. And I don't think the teachers ever said a word. I think they
not
were
at all
talking to the other teachers going, you okay? Get up. It'll be fine.
Rub some dirt in it.
Fine. Yes.
Well, the cheat code was always to find the two girls.
Oh, yeah, of course.
If they weren't smart enough to go alternate, then you'd find the two girls that got stuck on the end, and you just, as a boy, you just ram right through that.
Yes.
But then
of course.
You wouldn't take one of those two. You'd take one of the guys back with you.
Of course. Of course. Everybody knows that. But I just think about how many times people either got hit up top, or if they came running in, you could even go low, and if you caught them on the waist, I've seen kids get flipped.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 'cause you're not supposed to. You're supposed to just hold on and let them run into you. But you better believe we figured out, hey, as they get here, if you swing forward and basically punch them in the stomach, it's going to be harder for them to break through. That was completely allowed. Nobody said a word. Nobody said anything.
For us, more so in dodgeball, but even kickball.
Yes.
I mean, I remember some of the throws that were made, especially from males that may have been held back a grade, so they're already a year older. Right? But those were some violent throws, head shots, leg shots, taking people out in kickball, dodgeball. And like you said, for us in school, not as if the PE teacher said, oh, you can't do that. You can't target the head like the NFL has targeting rules now. We didn't have that dodgeball back then. You would just get lit up one way or another. And that was just part of the game.
Well, we played in PE. Now, again, when you're just out at recess, you would play dodgeball and, people would get lit up. But we played in PE. They let us play dodgeball. But even worse, they had us play what was called pin dodgeball. Did you guys ever have that?
No. Tell me your version.
So pin dodgeball, you would have literally like these plastic bowling pins. And each side. Ones? What's that?
Lightweight ones?
Yeah,
not the heavy plastic. Real ones?
Yeah, no, plastic ones. They were plastic. Okay. They weren't the nice wooden ones that you could clock somebody over the head with. These were plastic. And you would just basically, you had 3 for each side. And once all the pins got knocked down, that team won. Well, you could put them wherever you want. So, of course, you put them farthest away from the line. And then, because you don't want it to be an open shot, what would you do? Put the girl who couldn't throw or catch. You're the sacrificial lamb. You guard this pin. You take the bullet to make sure that pin doesn't fall. While the rest of us boys are going to run to the front lines and try to hit the other girls that are guarding the pins for the other team. Complete chaos, because if the girl didn't want to try to catch, she's taking it off the chin, off the head. A lot of them would turn at the last second and take it in the side of the face. I mean, it was brutal. But those were the rules. And the PE teacher was like, well, that's a good strategy to have somebody guard the pin. You don't want to leave it open. Right. Put Sarah, who won't do anything else, in front of the pin and watch her get wrecked. It was tragic.
The things that they allowed that they would not allow today.
Did you guys have floor hockey?
One time. And not because anything happened. The equipment was there. I just go back to the motivation of the physical education teachers of the time. We played it one time. And now maybe that's also because hockey was not a big sport in the South. But yeah, we played it one time. It did okay. And we never saw that equipment again.
Oh my gosh. like competitions between, and it was a big deal. Like they brought the sixth graders would play for like the school championship. Like Miss Lawton's class would play Mr. Henry's class and the whole thing. And they would bring in all the other classes, like the rest of the school, and kind of like line around the edge and watch the floor hockey championship. Again, there's no helmet. There's no mount. It's plastic sticks, like regular hockey sticks, a plastic puck. You had a net. And if you were the goalie, you didn't get any extra padding. You were just in the goal. So there are plenty of kids that, again, took it off the head, got popped in the mouth, a lot of bloody lips. Bigger kids, if some, and again, I hate to say it this way, but if some girl was trying to get the puck out of the way and a bigger kid was there, well, you're probably going to bump her and she's probably going to fall down and then she's probably going to cry. I mean, we had all that. Again, that was some of the most fun we ever had. You could never do that now.
Yeah.
Never. There's no chance.
Especially, so in high school being 8 through 12, we had PE 8th, 9th, and 10th grade.
Oh, high school PE was a joke. Yeah.
And yeah, what it amounted to was, hey, line up, do some jumping jacks, some other quote unquote exercises. And then the boys would go play basketball, and the girls would just sit around and not do much. And that was about it. Elementary PE, again, there was a few, like they were trying to teach us sport, but it was always kickball, dodgeball.
Right.
There was nothing exceptional taught in PE to any great length. So maybe that was the job to have back then.
The only thing that I can remember, I mean, it's still the job to have, let's be honest. I sub for a while, and doing PE is simple. You just take roll, and then whatever unit you happen to be on. If they're playing pickleball, that's a unit now. Here's a paddle. Here's a couple of pickleballs. Go have fun. And they figure out, they make it up. Or they just stand there and bat it back and forth and chatter the whole time, which is fine. Now, the one thing that we did have in high school that I was always fascinated by is, I think it was our freshman year, they actually did, and it must have been because our gym teacher was the field hockey coach. I guess that was our sophomore year. My freshman year, my baseball coach was our gym teacher. My sophomore year, our gym teacher was like one of the field hockey coaches. So we did a field hockey unit, and I understood immediately why our high school field hockey team wasn't any good, because boys who had never played before are playing in gym class against girls that were on the varsity field hockey team as sophomores. So they're supposed to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And we would annihilate them. Like, it was ridiculous. We're like, you guys know how to play it. Like, we had to figure out, okay, you can only hit it with one side of the stick. It's not like a hockey stick because the one side is rounded and the other side's flat.
Okay.
So you can only hit it with the one side. So you can't, like dribbling, you would have to go and then turn it and knock it the other way. So the flat side was always hitting. You couldn't just go back and forth like you would with a hockey stick. We would kill them in gym class. And it was like, well, no wonder you're no good. You can't beat us. We don't even know the rules. So, but the other thing, though, in junior high, tell me if you had this. And this doesn't make any sense. It'd make more sense down where you were, a little bit in more southern central Virginia than up here in northern Virginia. We had line dancing and square dancing, the Virginia reel and stuff like that they were teaching us in 7th and 8th grade. Bizarre. Like, I've never had the Virginia reel ever again in my life. I don't know why we had to learn it.
So interestingly enough, that we did have that. And it's one of my highlights of my academic career was I just said, I'm not doing this. So then the school got mad, called my parents, said, hey, he's not participating in square dancing. My parents were like, and? It's his choice. And so the school felt I was being a bad seed because I was just not doing it. I said, well, that's my prerogative, And so they got mad. I remember they sent me to the library to write essays. That was going to be my punishment, right?
Nice.
Well, after the first day I figured it out, I went ahead because not big ones, but write me a 4-page essay on this. Or first it was my choice. I pre-wrote essays. So I went to the library, stood there for 20 minutes, came back, said, here you go. And it ticked. I remember to this day, because he was one of the football coaches, he looked at me and said, all right, go back and give me another one. Went back, stood there for another 10 minutes, come right back and handed him another one. And he was losing his mind. And my mother even said, she goes, I don't know why they're making such a big deal out of this. Just give you the 0 for participation and move on. But they were trying to make an example out of me because I was bucking the system of, I'm not doing this. This is just dumb. It's not music we know. It's not dancing that we do. I don't know why we're wasting time here, but I'm not going to participate in it.
Well, did the rest of your class, were they like, what are you doing, man? Just dance. Who cares?
Some were laughing. I mean, I don't think they quite understood it at the time. They were just, following orders. We're just what we're going to do. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to do this. And it'd be no different that, let's go back to the dodgeball example.
Right.
If a girl said, hey, I'm not going to take a ball in the face. This isn't right. I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to sit out. Well, they wouldn't have given a second thought. But for some reason, me and square dancing, the administration was all up in arms about getting me somehow to participate or to make an example of me for not. And I'm like, I'll take the 0. I don't care. This doesn't affect my grade. One day out of 180 or 2 days out of 180 of gym class, taking the 0, big deal. So
see, the weird thing was, and this was, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, 7th and 8th grade, we may have even done some of it in elementary school, but I know in 7th and 8th grade, we were doing it. But the weird thing was, if you had to do like the partner dancing, I don't mean like waltzing or whatever, but like the line dancing. I think the Virginia reel, I can't remember what other the other dances were, the names of dances. Anyway, so if you had to have a partner, a lot of it was, again, like crossing hands. I can't really do it that well with the camera. So you'd have to hold hands with the person. Well, for whatever reason, that kind of stuff never bothered me, probably because I had an older sister. So I had been around girls, with her friends and everything. So I never had the whole girls have cooties thing, like, and try to avoid them because I had an older sister. Again, her friends are always around. It's no big deal. But I do remember, and it was weird even then for me to be like, this is dumb. Just hold the person's hand. Who cares? They would give us about the size of a pencil, and it wasn't a pencil. But as you can see, it's not that long, 8 inches or so, whatever it is. And you would, if you didn't want to hold hands with a person, you would go get one of these sticks that they had, and one person would hold one side and one person would hold the other. And that's how you would then go and do your little dance. Well, the weird thing was, to me, I never did that because like, it didn't bother me. But 2, like, do you want to be the person that's like, no, I'm sorry, Jenny, you're not, you're kind of gross. So we're going to go get the stick. And you're going to hold one end of the stick. I'm holding the other end of the stick. And you certainly didn't want to be the guy on the end of this, like to have Jenny go, yeah, you know what, Chris, you're going to hear, we're getting a stick because I'm not holding your hand. It was very weird. And it put people in very awkward situations.
Yeah. I mean, for us, and most of the girls, again, awkward ages, did not want to hold hands with guys. So they'd pair off themselves, leaving guys to handhold each other for this. And honestly, none of my issues were ever really about, ooh, I don't want to hold a girl's hand, guy's hand. I just thought the concept was just dumb and a waste of effort.
And it was.
Time.
Yeah.
Honestly.
No,
because again, I was pointing to, no one does this anymore. This is not even music we listen to. So why are we learning some, folk dances from 100 years ago, technically, as part of this education? Well, it's part of the education process. Well, I don't want to participate in it. Thank you.
I don't know when they dropped it. I imagine they don't do that anymore. I would think. I mean, I would be stunned. I know they don't obviously do it in high school because I never hear any of the kids, I'm coaching high school basketball. I never hear any of them talking about their high school having to do any of that kind of stuff. So I imagine it's probably gone, at least from the high school ranks. But if they're still making elementary school kids and junior high. Like, why? They're never, ever going to use it. You want to teach them like a dance thing? Let them do the electric slide. Who cares? Like,
Well, I think for kids, our age, grew up in the 70s and 80s, this was just leftover curriculum from long ago, right? That's just what we did. It carried through. Nothing changed. And,
you're probably right.
It was just an archaic dinosaur left over, but that was in the book of this is what you do in PE class. So I agree. You're right. They probably don't do it anymore. They probably moved on to many other things.
I just never understood. And again, well, I mean, I guess it goes right along with letting kids get destroyed in dodgeball or any of these other things, Red Rover, or we didn't call it kill the carrier back then. We called it something else that you're not allowed to call it anymore. So just a matter of them letting that stuff go on. I can't believe they would make you use a stick because, again, if Jenny goes, oh, I'm going to get matched up with Chris, and Jenny's like, I'm not touching Chris. He's gross. Like, can you imagine that today if they're like, if some girl's like, I'm not holding hands with him, not doing it. They'd be like, well, why are you such a bigot, Jenny? What's going? I mean, it would be a whole thing, right? It would be
Correct.
A whole thing. But that back then it was like, yeah, we get it, Jenny. Chris is kind of gross. Here's your stick. Here's a stick. You hold one end, he can hold the other. Now go dance with the person that you think is disgusting. So you have to hold a stick. It didn't make any sense, but neither did letting people play dodgeball and putting poor Jenny in front of the pin and getting blasted I mean, again, everybody, you would throw, the strategy would be, okay, all three of us are going to throw our red rubber Franklin ball at Jenny at the same time, because either A, one of us will hit her, B, she'll get scared and run and maybe somebody hits the pin, or C, she'll move wrong and kick the pin herself, which happened a lot because, again, you get three rubber balls come flying at you, you're going to move. And a lot of times you moved and knocked the pin down. It was great. But they never allow that now. There's no way.
But if you think about it, it was teaching game theory, critical thinking in PE, because how are we going to win? Well, we can do this. We can do that. Oh, there's a weak point there.
Yep.
That's what it did teach us, if anything.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then you would also then get smarter, because at some point you realized, oh, well, we can put it's far enough away that it's really not going to hurt. And it's easy. So you put like a guy who is competent who, okay, throw at the pin. Fine. If we catch it, you're out. Mm-hmm. So then you would just put a guy back there. And then he'd be like, all right, Jenny, get out of the way. Go be cannon fodder up at the front line, and we'll take care of it back here. And yeah, you're right. You would figure out game theory through all this stuff. How do you win? What's the easiest way? What are the vulnerabilities on the other side? Absolutely. That's a great point. It was all game theory.
So we're getting a great education. Didn't realize it at the time.
Didn't realize it took 40 years later to figure out that we knew what was going on. But I will say then, a lot of the stuff that you talk about game theory, how much did you learn from problem solving and stuff that your parents would have just said, no, you're just wasting your time? But how much of it did you learn playing video games? Because we were the first group that really embraced the video games. I know the millennials after us, they had better games than we did, and they keep getting better and better. Gen Z has better stuff than we had. But from the Atari 2600 to Intellivision to ColecoVision, if you were a loser, to Sony, PlayStation, the Sega Genesis, the Super NES. I mean, all that stuff. We took it from basically blips on a screen all the way forward. And we were the generation that, and to me, I still say you learned a lot from playing video games.
Definitely you did. It was learning how the system worked. I think if you played long enough, you'd figure out the glitches.
Right.
Or if you played long enough, you knew how to, this is how you have to jump the bridge. I'm just going
here. Yeah.
you hit this one spot and that's the spring point. And it's just from repetition and learning that you figured out, oh, that's how this game works. And so I always, my dad asked me one time, I said, well, there's a learning curve. You're going to play a lot in the beginning because you're trying to figure out the game, what works, what doesn't work. And then at the end, you get bored with it because you figured it all out and it's just time to move on now. Something new came out, something different. But once you figured it out, it became all right. And, easier to trade in games now than back then. But yeah, you just master it and move on. But it did teach you a lot. A lot of it was just perseverance, that you played long enough to figure out where this had to be done, that had to be done. Oh, if I do this, we can do that. And stick to itness, if you will.
I know people, younger kids, and even people in our generation that are still playing video games now will say, no, it's still social. The video games of you playing online with your headset and talking to some 12-year-old in Germany who's dropping the N-bomb every other word because they're just trying to, be stupid. That's not the social aspect that we had. Mm-hmm. Like having Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I can tell you who was in the room, whose house we were at, the whole thing of the first time that I beat Mike Tyson to beat the game. Is me, my friend Dan Morey, my friend Jeff Dawson. We were in Jeff's basement at his parents' house. It was a Saturday night, and it was about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we woke his parents up because as soon as I beat Tyson, you would have thought it was the end of World War II and the troops were coming home. We were jumping up and down in his basement in a big group hug, his dogs barking. It was insane. But that was the kind of camaraderie you had because you had to be in the room with other people in order to play the game. Now, Tyson's Punch-Out was a one-player game, so we were all just passing the controller because once you got far enough, you had the code to go straight to Tyson. So our whole thing was we worked our way up, got to Tyson, wrote the code down, and then just kept, okay, Dan, your turn. Okay, Jeff, your turn. Okay, my turn. And you're watching other people play and trying to study, okay, when this happens, that's when you got to dodge because he's going to throw the uppercut or whatever it was. You don't have that anymore. You don't have that camaraderie of playing video games all together in one place anymore.
And I think that's because as we were talking about earlier, we did outdoor games together, kickball, road bikes, etc. So when you introduce this new technology, we're still in the mindset of we're doing this together. We still congregate in whoever's living room. Even if it's a one-player game and we're passing the joystick around, we're still together because that is what we had always done. And I think, later on, newer generations, obviously the games changes as well, but they didn't have that basis for we get in the same room and we do this together. Not even just at your house. Think about back in the days. You go to the arcade.
Oh,
That's where people congregated, right? We're doing maybe an individual game, but we're still all together socializing. There's things going on beyond us in the game that kind of went away with, if you will, the death of malls and the change in the video game systems where we're talking online with people overseas. Totally changed the script on how we all played games and were together.
What was the game that you remember going to the arcade? Obviously everybody was watching Pac-Man when people got good at Pac-Man, but was there a game that you would go and maybe you weren't good at it, but you liked watching somebody good, if they knew what they were doing, play that game? I remember younger kids won't remember this. You go to the arcade and somebody be playing a game and then you'd stack your quarter up to have the next game. There'd be a whole row of quarters on the game, waiting for that meant you were playing next. Whoever developed that system, brilliant. Just absolute genius to be like, all right, I'm going to put my quarter up here. That means I have next. And you could walk away and come back a few minutes later and people be like, oh, whose quarter is that? You're up. And be like, oh, it's mine. It was just an honor system.
Yeah.
But
now they'd walk away with your quarters.
Yeah. You'd be like, thank you. Take those right off the top. Yeah, You're right. So is there one game that you would go and watch more than another one?
There were Asteroids. For some reason, the arcade I went to, I don't know why I wasn't very good at it, but it is what it is. But I remember this one time there's this guy, he was just killing it. Whatever it was he knew how to do, spin that ship around, blow everything to pieces, never got touched. It was amazing just to watch for, a good half hour or so while he was playing.
Yeah, somebody that's good at those games, like Pac-Man to me, not that impressive because once you figured out the pattern, you just run the pattern over and over again. It's like anything like we talked about before at the initial game of problem solving and logic and that kind of thing. Once you know the pattern to Pac-Man, it's pretty much a given. You just run the pattern and you're good to go. I mean, it's pretty impressive for somebody to remember all that. But once you have it, you have it. And, you spend enough money, you would get it. I remember, do you remember the first ever laser disc game for the arcade? You remember Dragon's Lair?
Okay, I remember that game. Yes. Okay. Yep.
That was the laser disc game. It wasn't like the computer board, like a Pac-Man or whatever. And that was where you would, you were the dragon, Dirk the Diggler or whatever his name was. I can't remember. Dirk the Daring, I think is what it was. I don't remember. I think that's what it was, Dirk. And so you'd be, again, trying to save the princess or whatever. And so you would get to like the bridge that was getting ready to catch on fire. And you had to decide whether you're going to go left or right. And something would flash. And then you had to move the joystick, time it just right. It was almost like a choose your own adventure video game. That game was so hard because you would get to a certain point and you think, okay, all I'm doing is following the flashes. And then it would flash and you'd choose that and it would kill you. Like there's a scene in a dungeon where there's a potion that says drink me on it and it flashes. So you go, okay, you hit the joystick towards it. Well, then you drink it and you die. It's poison. Well, you just wasted one of your lives, or perhaps you just lost your last life because you trusted the game to tell you the proper way. Like it had been up until that point. And then you go, oh, okay, that's not it. So you had to start remembering every single pattern all the way through. Again, it was just pattern recognition, but it would throw you curveballs like that. I loved watching guys that were good at that play that game because I didn't ever have the money to just pump quarters in until I figured out the patterns. So you just watch somebody else play and kind of pick it up that way.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's what we were saying, remembering the patterns. People had to have the money, the time, the effort to be able to sit through multi-variations of playing to learn, do this, don't do that. This happens here. And, of course, later on it becomes a whole industry. I remember seeing magazines that came out about video games, right? Told you
Nintendo Power. Yeah.
Right? Told you do this, do that, look for this. And it was all in print, publicly shared, and it wasn't just a rite of passage of learning it and then maybe have someone telling you. It was, oh, well, I bought the subscription and I have the magazine and now I know. So to me, that kind of took the fun out of a lot of it.
Yeah, because it was word of mouth. Like
yes.
Having that, I remember, again, going back to the Mike Tyson Punch-Out story, we wrote that code down, of course, because we needed to enter it. And, of course, the next time you saw anybody of your buddies, you'd be like, do you need the Tyson code? Like, we have the Tyson code. And then you just spread it around school. That's how things, it was word of mouth. There wasn't Nintendo Power magazine. I don't think it had been out yet at that point. Or if it had, none of my friends got the Nintendo Power. But I mean, that lasted all the way through, like even into college. Like I can remember, I mean, the NES came out in 85, I think, the first one. Yeah. And then Super NES, I think, came out in 91 or 92, whatever it was. So when we started college, it was still just the NES. So you had like Tecmo Bowl, and that was the one that only had four plays that you could call. And if the defense called the same play that you did, it basically got blown up unless you had Bo Jackson who just ran over everybody, even when the play was called. I mean, that kind of stuff. But I can remember the next version, the Super NES, and then you had Super Tecmo Bowl, and it had 8 plays. And it also kept stats. Like the other game didn't really keep stats. It might for the game, but it didn't keep season stats. This was the first game that I remember that kept like standings and stats and the whole thing. And we used to over at the fraternity house, you get a bunch of guys on a weekend or whatever was going on. Everybody throws in $5 or $10. You could randomize. You could just hit a button. It would randomly give you your team.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd play like a whole season over the course of like a couple weeks, winner take all. And you just were at the mercy of whatever button you pushed. And it randomly gave you your team name. But again, it wasn't like you could do Madden now where you and I would be able to play Madden, you and Maine and me here. You had to be in the room to play head-to-head, which means you had to take a chance. If you wanted to taunt somebody and say something and make fun of them, you took the chance because they're right in the same room with you and within arm's reach of you getting a big pop right in the shoulder if you talk too much. I have plenty of friends that I saw get in fights over Super Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah. We'll even go back further. The handheld football games. Those were huge on the bus going to school. So you could play head-to-head. Now, there were certain ones that, the game had to sit between you and you played head-to-head. But I remember the one-on-ones that someone had on my bus. You would play your downs.
Yep.
And you either punted, scored the touchdown, whatever, and then you hand the handheld to them
to
play their round. But there was still taunting between the two. Like, he might peek over the seat and go, "You screwed up yet?"
Yeah, exactly.
Or just start messing with you while you're trying to play because he can tell you're on a big run because the thumbs are going furious. He'd start like chucking you in the shoulder, like, "Don't mess up, don't mess up." So you had that engagement with each other during the game, which you don't get anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I know everybody's gonna say, "Yeah, but look at the graphics." It's gonna make it. I'm telling you, unless you've sat in the room with people, and that was entertaining, even if you weren't playing. To watch two people play and you sit there and the nonsense that would be said between each of them, the fights, the tauntings. I mean, there were guys that would get rattled over a video game. You would be getting taunted at a video and get completely rattled and melt down. And it certainly felt like the game knew that you were rattled and there'd be a bad turnover or something. And inevitably you'd be like, "See, this happens to you all the time. You get nervous, you get rattled, you turn the ball." I mean, that was a blast, and I don't know that this generation, even though their games are better and you can just sit in your room and the person can be half the world away. I mean, I guess that's kind of cool that you can meet people that way, but it ain't the same as being right there in the room. That's why I'm always fascinated when you see like they do the Madden championships every year.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are in the room together.
Yeah.
When they're playing head to head, I mean, you're right there and you can see guys getting nervous, guys getting flustered, all that stuff where I don't know if it'd be the same if you were just playing at home. There were, the first time I saw that and was like, this doesn't seem quite the same. A couple of guys from George Mason's basketball team. You'll remember Lamar Butler, obviously. He's with, on the staff now, and John Vaughn, who was on, he actually had hurt his knee the Final Four year, but was on the team. He was that age, and Fowler and Campbell, the three of them. I'm sure there were probably more, but I just remember those three. Lamar was my radio partner for a couple of years. He would bring, I think it was the PlayStation, I don't remember, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever it was, doesn't matter. He would bring his video game with him when we'd go on the road. And go to dinner, come back, and I would be going working on things or whatever. And I'd come back to the room and he'd be sitting there with it hooked up to the TV and playing. And all of a sudden he's talking. And I'm like, "Are you talking to me?" Like, it's the first time and he's like, no, I'm talking to JV. And I'm like, "There's nobody else in this room. How are you talking to JV?" And he's like, showing his headsets. And I'm like, "Oh, so you're just chatting with me?" He goes, No, I'm playing him. And I was like, this is wild. I'm like, "You guys don't have to be in the same room?" Like, this is great. But I still was like, I know you're still taunting him and it's not the same. It wasn't the same to listen to them just go back and forth. It's like, you need to be in the same room. That's more fun.
Oh, you have to be. And I remember the situation growing up, the house over across the street, three brothers, The youngest was my age. We were the same age, same grade, and then it was 2 years, and then 2 years to the middle brother, 2 years to the older brother. And I remember this fight one time. Me, the rest of the neighborhood kids. Again, we're in the living room. We're watching this game go on. They were playing. I think it was Atari's Combat.
Nice.
With the very low end graphics, but yep, you're playing tanks. You're flying planes. They were playing the tank game, and like the older brother got off a great bounce shot, and it so infuriated the brother that was my age to the point of, so I say he went spider monkey on him. So he went and attacked him. He's beating him in the head with the Atari joystick, and it was just like you said. It's amazing to be in the same room and watch everything go on. They're just beating the crap out of each other until the father came in and started yelling, threw us all out. But yeah, you don't get that kind of fun rivalry playing internet with someone, whether they're down the road or 100 miles away.
And if we had been able to have videos of that stuff, they would be going viral on YouTube and TikTok and wherever else. Mm-hmm. Now all you get is the videos of somebody rage quitting, but you only see it from the side of the person who's winning usually. You don't see a lot of the rage quit. Like most people aren't filming themselves and then posting up the time when they rage quit a game where they just stop in the middle of it and then you automatically get the win because the other person quit in the middle of the game. You never would be able to do that. Every once in a while, you'd have somebody that would hit the reset button, and that would inevitably start a fight if you were getting beat or any of that kind of stuff. Or somebody would chuck a controller at somebody else. Again, when they were wired, that was a little bit harder to do because you'd end up yanking the whole console off the shelf and everything else. But it's funny because one of the first games, I never had an Atari. Mm-hmm. I had friends that had it, so I'm obviously you have to have lived under a rock at that point not to be familiar with the 2600. The first video game we ever got was Mattel Electronics Intellivision. Mm-hmm. You had the two controllers and had the 1 through 9. You had the little each game had its own little overlay they called it where you slid it in and that was the buttons on how you'd press to know. But I was always I thought back about it years later because you don't think about it at the time. We had the casino game where you could play blackjack, you could play poker. We had a horse racing game. Again, there I am, probably 8, 9, 10 years old, learning how to double down, all this, like learning the odds of the horse racing thing. Like my parents didn't think anything of it. And I'm just like, this is how you become a degenerate gambler is learning from the Intellivision about, okay, it's a soft 16. I need to hit because the dealer's showing an 8. Like I didn't know that I knew all that stuff, but I knew all that stuff. It was just strange.
Well, I mean, if you take a broad look at it, there were just card games just because they were in casinos at the time. It brings that kind of connotation. But the reality is those were all card games that existed in history prior to the casino where you gamble and lose money. Like, yes, they were all about gambling all along, but it just didn't have the building facilitating it. So you just learned card games. And again, more game theory, more pattern recognition, more, you say counting cards is horrible. I don't know. You got to be pretty sharp to be able to remember what's already been played and what might be coming up and understand the percentages of what could happen.
Well, yeah, especially if you're in like a Vegas casino or someplace and there are 3-4 decks in that shoot and you've got to try to remember. Again, there's ways to do it and everything else. It's obviously a lot easier if you're playing, one deck or whatever. But yeah, I just remember even like the horse racing, I learned what a trifecta was and all that kind. And I'm like, at 10 years old, I shouldn't know what a trifecta is. I shouldn't know because, again, you could control one of the horses during the race, too. I should know that I'm sitting there going, oh, wait, I need this other horse to win, and then this one have to finish second. So I'm like trying to manipulate the whole thing so I would win the trifecta and then get more money in my bank account. Like at 10 or 11, I shouldn't be knowing how to do all that stuff. But that's how you learned.
I think you should at that age group.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. It's pretty crazy.
My one and only math course in college was probability and statistics.
Yes.
Entirely based on gambling.
Was that stat 250?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
took that as well.
instructor, he took the angle of, we're going to learn all of this based on gambling, which
Yeah.
for me, as a person who really didn't like the general concept of math, all of a sudden I'm enamored with it. Like, oh, we're, instead of just numbers, it's, hey, there's a deck with 52 cards, and what's your percentage if this and this has already been played, right? It just kept me engaged for that semester.
Yeah, I think I had the same teacher. I don't think we were in the class at the same time because I think I took that my freshman year. I think it was my first semester. I think I took that class maybe. But yeah, I think it's the same professor because it was all about that, and he would use sports statistics and any of that stuff. I don't remember any of it from the class, but I just remember that I didn't hate going to that class.
Correct.
So that was the main thing, not wanting to hate it. So now, I mean, with your kid now, where we are with the video games, and again, I have a PS5. The graphics are unbelievable. I never play any of the GTA online stuff or anything like that. I don't even think I have GTA for the 5 anyway, so I couldn't play it if I wanted to. But do you find that your kid is more engaged with the video games than, I don't want to say actual real life, but that's a complaint of a lot of parents, is that, again, our parents did the same thing. Get off the video game and get outside. The difference was we were like, okay, and you put the video game down, you went outside because you had grown up going outside and everything else. And a lot of times if you were playing the video game, as we just said, you're with your friends. So they were like, okay, he's still being social. Like it's not like you've locked away in a room and not doing anything. Because I think kids today have a tendency to lock themselves in the room and not do anything.
I will sadly admit that's my son. He spends more time with technology than he does other people.
But technology could be your phone. Is it the video games that he's spending time with? Or, I mean, what is, you say technology?
Oh, yeah, he's definitely on his computer. He owns whatever the latest Switch is from Nintendo. He has an Oculus, the headset.
Now that I'm jealous because I've had one of those before at a friend's house. That's pretty cool.
Oh, I am
surprised
it is not bigger than what it is, just based on what it can do, with the few simplistic games I saw and the potential there. I'm surprised it's not bigger than what it is already, because I figured, looking at it, I would have said this should be blowing every other game system out of the water. If the programming's done right, you get the right games, because you're immersed in the game. That's really it. He had boxing on that thing, and besides being a good workout for me, it was just absolutely amazing in terms of gameplay, that you're physically involved and hitting this other guy and he's hitting you. But that aside, yes, he has friends. They do some things. They go to theme parks when they're home from school or doing different things, but it's just not the same. They spend more time online with their game systems and gaming than they do pretty much anything else.
But is he, when he's playing, is it with his existing friends that he knows, or is he playing, like, what's his game?
I couldn't even tell you his game right now.
Okay.
But like, I just, and that's me just kind of shutting down, going, whatever you're doing.
Kind of like what our parents did.
But I do know he plays, like, one of his friends goes to school about 3 hours away, and they catch up on the game. So, I mean, it is their socialization, how they stay connected, but for them, they know no different. You and I do. And that's where you just kind of go, okay, that's what this generation does now.
Yeah, I think, and again, I think that's why you look at like all the AI stuff and everything else. And it's our generation, it's Gen X that's kind of driving the AI stuff. I think, like, I don't think our parents, maybe some of them are using different AI things without knowing that they're using it. But I think we're the ones that are kind of driving, like, using all these things, because we adapted to everything before. We had to adapt to having an Atari, having a Nintendo, going from hey, you can only play basketball if you're going to be outside with your friends, to, oh, now I can draft my own team in NBA 2K, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we adapted all that. So I don't think that AI is necessarily eluding our generation. Like, I think video games, to a degree, now younger boomers, probably not. They probably, because I mean, boomers 1964, that's not that much older than us. But my mom, who's technically a boomer, they didn't care about video games at all. They didn't understand them.
Yeah.
I mean, they just like, this is pointless. What are you doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense. We haven't had that. We understand all of that and kind of get how it can help. And again, in this case, not necessarily games, but just AI, that we understand, hey, this can be useful. I don't think we're going to be as out of the or in the woods technology wise as our parents were.
No, I mean, we are I'll say it, Gen X, we're that special generation that bridged the gap between, let's call it analog and traditional, to technology. It was given to us as soon as it came out, in many instances. We utilized it. It just became part of our norm. So we were always open to whatever it was going to do for us. I remember 7th grade, we were playing with Mac computers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just this basic programming of making this turtle go from one side of the screen to the other. It was kind of like a fancy Etch-a-Sketch, but you did it by coding and computer generation. And I remember the computer lab teacher, she was saying, you will understand this more in the years coming of what computers are going to do for you, what you're going to be able to do with it, with this thinking power. And it's right. I mean, the things, we saw it in radio. We went from playing vinyl to playing carts. And now, shocking for some of you to understand that most of your radio stations out there, there's not a human in the booth anymore. They've recorded the show 2-3 days before. They're saying things that they put down on tape, and the computer's putting it all together for you to hear it live during the day. So So again, we were introduced to it. It came into our worlds. We accepted it, and so AI, anything else, we're like, okay, this is how it works. This is what it does for us. Great, let's use it.
Yeah, and I think also with that, and people say, oh, this is where your age and everything else is kind of clouding things. I also think that we're the generation that is looking at this kind of side-eyed and going, yeah, this is great to a point.
Mm-hmm.
But you still don't want to get rid of everything. You don't want to get rid of human creativity. You don't want your top 40 radio stations and music shouldn't be all done by typing in a couple of prompts and all of a sudden you've got a top 40 hit. Like, I think that's where the younger generations, because they're now used to it, like it's no big deal for them to be everything be digital, everything be computerized, everything run by this or that, the other, because that's what they've grown up with. I think we look at it and go, hold on. I still want somebody to have to sit down and toil and write the music and write the lyrics and not just type a prompt into, some AI thing and go, write me a love song about 2 teenagers, and one of them moved away. I don't know, whatever it would be. And then within 30 seconds, you've got the song. We don't want that.
Yeah. And I think that's because we straddle that time zone of there was real and then there's technology driven. We see both sides of it. Whereas like my 20-year-old son, he knows nothing but computers. Computers make life efficient. You just press a button, it's done. And my world is more efficient and I move on. So I think, we still have that kind of, are we going to really allow this?
Right.
I mean, similar debate. I've had it with some coworkers. They're in school right now. They're advancing degrees and working on different things. And they're still writing papers, but they have to swear that they can't use AI for it.
Right.
And so I sit there and go, well, here's where I'm torn. Back when I had to write papers, high school, college, you had to go to the library and you manually had to dig up things and read it and understand it and put it together. That was time consuming. And so now I go, Okay, you're still writing papers, but you don't have to leave your house. The world is on your desktop for research, and you can have it all in minutes and then piece it together to write a paper and go, here's what I've learned. I don't know if they really learned anything, but it just, I've had these debates of what is the purpose of writing a paper anymore? It used to be go find the knowledge. Well, the knowledge is there right around you at all times. So what's the purpose of the exercise really anymore?
It's right there. Yeah. I mean, it's in your phone. There's everything that you probably want to know and need to write a paper at any level. You can do it right here. Now, that being said, I think there is something that you probably learn the information more if you have to go seek it out rather than just typing into whatever AI thing and say, I need 500 words on this. And it gives it to you. And then you just kind of make some changes here and there so it doesn't look like AI wrote it and then hand it in. You're not learning it. You're learning how to game the system, which maybe will help you down the road, but you're not learning the information as if you had to. Look, if you go to Google and you type in, I need information on this subject, and then you read it, and then you go and write the paper on it. I don't mind that you didn't have to go to the library. That doesn't bother me at all. I don't like the fact that they're just going, oh, okay, well, I'll just give a couple prompts into ChatGPT. I won't learn anything from it, but it'll spit out this information that then I can hand over to my professor, and I'll get a B or an A in the class or whatever it is. But you didn't actually learn it. Correct. It's not making you smarter. No, absolutely not. It's just information is more efficient. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And so that's why I said, instead of writing these papers, because again, there's a certain laziness in academia. You have 30 kids in this class and you say, all write me a paper on XYZ topic. Well, it's too generic. It's too vague because the information's too easy anymore. Right. So it should be, hey, the topic should be, in the modern world, we do X, Y, Z. How does, more of a critical angle of writing that paper than just these blank topics of write me a paper about hemophilia. Well, there's a million documents on a disease that's well known. So what did someone learn? But maybe the approach from the academic side, and I hate to get this deep, is, well, tell me about hemophilia in cancer patients. Right now we're getting into more specific, something more detailed. Maybe it requires them to be a little bit more critical in their thinking than just what technology can deliver for just generic information and writing a paper. I know we got sidetracked there, but that's I think it's smart. I think that's absolutely true. That I worry. Worry's a strong word, but I look at the way the kids are learning things, and a lot of it again. And I take this from the experience of coaching high school basketball, where a lot of what we're trying to teach them is, like we said, the game theory, how to find advantages, all that kind of stuff. And you present them with plays that we call read and react. People that watch basketball know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. We've had the conversation. Read and react type of offenses. And that, for some of them, shuts them down completely. Correct. Because they go, what do you want me to do? And I go, I can't tell you. Because then I'll say, well, what is the defense doing? What in your mind, imagine this. What is the defense doing? How do you react to that? What are you going to do if the defense does this? And they just look at you like you're the fact that they have freedom to kind of figure out, they just want to regurgitate and be good little, cogs in the wheel and give you back what you've told them. And I think in the classroom, I think that's the way it works for them is the teacher says, here, I need you to tell me everything that I've told you about whatever. The Bulge in World War II or D-Day or whatever. Here's all the information I've given you on D-Day. Give it back to me now. And they're very good at just being like, oh, this is what you want, because they can type into ChatGPT or whatever and say, give me the 5 main details of D-Day. And they'll have it, and then they can repeat it back to their teacher or write it down on a test. But if you say, hey, here's a scenario where there may be 3 or 4 decisions on the decision tree. How do you navigate that? A lot of them can't do it. They
So-
just can't do it.
We, in the emergency medical services, there's a national registry exam to get you certified. And all the courses are taught to that level when you go get certified. And it's the class and the exam are all about passing the exam. But what happens in the street is a completely different ballgame. So I've seen it the past few years, these younger providers come in. They've gone to what we consider great schools for EMS. And it's check boxes, checklist, and then they get lost if they get outside of those. They're, a simple example, we go to someone having chest pain. And for them, they remember the videos, they remember the checklist, and they're going one by one by one by one, especially on some irrelevant things to get back to, hey, he's having chest pain. Well, we determined that's why they called. So we can kind of skip some of this stuff in the middle.
Right.
We might want to ask a few questions just to be critical to go, well, is it this or is it that? But the reality is it's chest pain. But we've gone through this whole check the list, check the box of these 8 other things that are completely irrelevant to get to, oh, well, he has chest pain. Well, we knew that when we walked in the door.
Hey.
Let's start treating that instead of, again, like you said, what do you want me to do? And so they've been taught, here's what you do. Do this, do this, do this, ask that,
Right.
and going down the list to come back to the easy answer that was already presented to them just by using your eyes, using your skill set to go, oh, that person is sick. Maybe I can skip some of this other stuff and go right to the treatment because I think this is what's happening.
It's almost like that famous scene in Rodney Dangerfield's Back to School.
Mm-hmm.
When Dangerfield goes back to the college and he's in the business class and the guy's like, and he's like, oh, you have no idea. You got to get kickbacks for this person. And the professor's like, that's not how this works. And he's like, well, you've never actually built a building with union labor, have you? I mean,
Correct.
That's kind of what it is the professor wanted the regurgitation of the standard practices and how you do things. And Rodney Dangerfield's character, Mr. Mellon, knew that's not how things worked in the real world.
Yeah. The real world's different. And that's what I tell some of the new providers when they come in. It's like, I'm glad you have all this knowledge base. I'm glad that they taught you all these things. Street level medicine is a completely different animal than the exams and the classes you took. And it'll take time. You'll get through it. You'll get better if you let go of the concept of what I was taught is exactly how things have to play out. The rough example, a friend of mine, you said, oh, we go up to a car accident, and not to be graphic, let's say a gentleman has lost a leg.
Sure.
We don't need to start with, so tell me, sir, have you had any food or water in the past 24 hours? Do you have any chronic cardiac conditions?
Before or after the accident?
Right?
Lose the leg. Yeah.
Like we need to start with stopping bleeding and stabilizing whatever's going on with that leg. Then we can come back to your check boxes of this happening, that happening. What if they have kidney stones? Right. But they get confounded if they aren't exactly following. They want to be taught what the right answer is. They want to be taught the right form, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think also on the flip side, we're not teaching them to step outside and have those critical thinking skills to be able to take something that's going on and either have a unique perspective or recognize it that, oh, okay, this is more normal and we can do X, Y, Z as I've been taught.
Because I think all that gets fixed if you bring dodgeball back to recess.
Very well. I think it would be. Reactive, right? Immediate reactive.
That's right. And you figure out, hey, on the fly, you better have a plan because if you don't have a plan, you're going to get smacked in the face with a big rubber ball. That's the thing for everybody. So that's a good place to wrap it up. So what do we figure out today? Dodgeball should be back in schools, right?
Absolutely.
Should never have had dance classes in 7th and 8th grade.
No.
And the moon is dangerous. I think that's what we figured out.
Can be dangerous, yes.
It can be dangerous. All right. You want to wrap up episode 3? You got some words of wisdom for us before we go.
The truth is out there.
It is indeed. And with it being out there, I think right now, everybody go outside, go play outside, get out of your room. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you next time. Episode 4 next week.
This concludes this episode of Gen X Men with Bill Rowland and Gary Dollarhite. Gen X Men is now off the air.